What is up guys, it's SS Modern Warfare here, Gamertag Banjo Chicken, and welcome back to another episode of hardware tutorials. So in this tutorial we're going to be installing the Arbiter 3 rapid fire chip to our Xbox 360 controller. Absolutely fantastic mod chip for your controller. I have had one on my previous controller for ages and it is a really good rapid fire chip. So if you're into modded controllers, definitely one of the things to get. It's undetectable, so you won't get banned or anything like that, and they have so many different modes. So other than this, there is the Intensifier chip, which is a similar standard, which is another one that you might want to pick up if you can't get your hands on the Arbiter 3. But yeah, anyway, definitely I would highly recommend this over something like a SCUF controller, because although SCUF controllers are approved, they're still a modded controller, really, in my opinion. I mean, it's a controller that's been modified, therefore it's a modded controller. And SCUF controllers only have about 8 different modes, like the stoppers on the right trigger and the left trigger. We could to make it fire faster or aim in faster or whatever it is. So that's 2 modes. They've got sometimes the right stick and left stick are modified, so let's say that's another 2 modes. And then they can have up to 4 paddles, I think, on the bottom for different buttons, and say that's another 4 modes. So roughly you could say a SCUF controller has about 8 different modes. This rapid fire controller, a rapid fire mod chip, has over, and this is absolutely ridiculous, it has over 78 different modes. You just go ahead and pause the video. Hopefully it's focused enough, but go ahead and pause the video right here if you want to read through all of those. But as you can see, a hell of a lot more than what a SCUF controller can do, and it's a lot cheaper. I mean, you can buy the controller with the mod chip already installed. I can link that in the description. That's quite expensive because you're paying for a whole controller plus the chip already installed for you. Or you can just buy the chip itself, and I say chip, it's not really a chip, but really what else to call this, but you can buy the chip itself from eBay, and I'll link that in the description too, and install it to one of your existing controllers, which is a lot cheaper. This thing only costs about £10, £15. Convert that to dollars if you want, if you're American. Absolutely beast. So anyway, let's get on and install this. Done enough talking. So what we're going to do is have to open up the controller. Now with controllers, they are Torx screws, but they have these little bits in the middle. So it's a security bit in the middle, so that a normal Torx screwdriver will not be able to open it unless you've got the little hole in the middle of the screwdriver in order to take it apart. This is really easy to get past. All you need to do is get a flathead screwdriver, stick it in between. You need to get the right size of flathead so it will stick in between the security bit and the screw, and then you can just twist it and it will start taking the screw out. It may even snap the security bit off the middle, which is actually good, because then you can get a normal Torx screwdriver in and get the screws out that way. Just like that. So what I'm going to do, take out the screws. I've got 2 up here, there's another 2 here, another 2 down the bottom, and 1 just behind the label right there. So I'm going to take those screws out and I'll be back with you guys. Okay guys, I have all the screws out, so all we're going to do is open up this controller now. In order to open this controller up without the buttons falling out, you want to open it up facing down, that way the buttons will not fall out. So lift up the corner, push in the trigger so that the plastic bit goes over the trigger. Do the same on the other side, and then you'll be able to just pull it right off. Pull out the motor plugs and just take the motors off. Lay them down somewhere, and then you can just pull off the PCB. So we can lift up the PCB by holding the top and pulling it up, and then we get the PCB off. Pull off the triggers, or the sticks rather, and we have our PCB ready to work on. Alright guys, so what we're going to do first of all is place the chip onto the PCB. So we're going to place it on and just try and line everything up. So we can see that it's lined up now. So what you're going to want to do is get maybe a pen or a knife and scrape. You need to actually scrape or make some kind of mark on where the Y, X, B and A buttons are going to connect. So they're marked on here. You see the little, it says B right here. So if I make a little scrape with this just to mark the location, and I've made a little mark there to note that that's where B is. I'm going to go over to Y, which is right here, and don't worry guys, I'm going to change the camera angle so it's further in and easier to see when we actually come to start soldering this. Right there you've got A, so I'm going to make a little scrape there to note where A is, and finally we have X, which is right where this red wire is. Turn it over this way and make a little scrape right here where the X is going to be. So that's right here. Alright, so now that we've marked those points, in fact there's one more that we should mark too, which is right over here. Just here you've got these 3 little gold points, and it is the one next to BK, so we're just going to scrape right down there to make a little mark to note that that's one of the points that we're going to have to solder. So we'll make another mark. Alright, so now you've made your mark, you can take the chip off, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually scrape away at that. We're going to scrape away at these little points right here so that we can expose the copper, because we need to get the copper exposed so that the solder will take to it. So here we go. Alright, so there we go guys. As you can see, I've scraped away, and I may need to scrape a bit more off if the solder doesn't take, but we'll see if that's enough. So you just scrape away at those points that we're going to be soldering, and that way we have it all set up and ready. Alright, so here we go guys. We have the PCB all set up and we are zoomed in. So what we're going to do first of all is just grab the chip. Kind of very delicate, this thing. Gotta be careful with it. And we're going to pop it on here. So first thing we're going to do is put some flux on all of these points, just to make things a little bit easier for us. Okay, so let's get on with it. Alright, let's do it. So first thing we have to do is this one down here. Now I'll say it in every video where I solder, and I'll keep saying it, I am not great at soldering, so yes, feel free to hate on me for my terrible soldering methods. But as long as I get the job done, that's the important thing. So, when you solder it, one thing you might want to do is actually push down on it a bit with a screwdriver once you have the solder on, because what we want is for it to be pushed down so it's actually making contact. See, if you have it too far up, it's not going to make contact and you're going to get a loose connection. So make sure it's pushed down firmly on the point that we're going to be soldering. Push down on this so that it is secure. Next one. So again, just flatten this out with a screwdriver so that we know it's making contact. Next we've got this little point up here, Z and right trigger. So again, with every single one, just to be safe, I'm going to push it down with the screwdriver and then melt the points. So that we know we're making a good connection. Alright, so now we move up to the top right part here. So for this we're going to have to melt the solder and get it down so it connects the 2 points together. So that scraped bit of copper and the little gold point, we need to get a bit of solder to fuse those two together, bridge them together. I have to hold this down a bit. So that took a little bit of persuasion, but it is fused on now. There we go, that is that fused on there too. Next one is X, so we'll go ahead and do X. Once again, hold down with that till we get a good contact. Alright guys, so what we've done is we've got X, Y, B, A all done. Right trigger, Z, all these points down here. So what we have to do now is mount this little red wire here to this top right point on the right bumper button. So we're going to put a bit of solder on here, this point, and then just curl this wire around and solder it on. I've actually switched irons as well because the one I was using before was not really fit for purpose. This one is a little bit better, so hopefully make things easier. So we got a bit of solder on there. What we're going to do is try and grab the wire and twist it. I think that's a bit too, there's a bit too much bare wire showing as well. There is too much showing on there. And we have that attached. So what you need to do with this wire is really curl it round, because you don't want it to get in the way of the actual button, the Y button. So you're just going to make sure that's tucked out of the way of the Y button and it should be fine. So now moving on to the left side, we have this left trigger point, which needs to be done as well. So that is the actual best way to tackle this, actually, is to point the touch the iron on one end and then put the solder on the other end. So the solder's not actually touching the iron, it's just touching the point itself, and then it melts around it. The problem with the iron I was using before was A, it was too small, and B, it was only a 12-watt soldering iron. This is a 30-watt soldering iron. I highly recommend you use a 30-watt soldering iron, because I'm finding it a lot easier with this one than the one I was using before. It was just making a complete mess of everything. Put another piece of flux right there. Let's see if we can get this connected. Alright, we have that connected now, at last. So the last point we have to do is the MD. So that just hooks up straight to the middle point on the sync button, and this is kind of one of the most important points to solder, because it is the button that you use to actually communicate with the mod chip. So the sync button is the one that you use to set different modes and change the speed of the rapid fire and stuff like that. So I'm going to turn it over this way so I can come at it at an easier angle. And we're going to pop. See, in this case I'm just going to have to put some on the iron and then push that in. Very hard to see, but I think it is making contact with the sync button. So what we can do now there's two other things. There's actually two other wires that came with this that go around to the back to solder to the sticks. So there's some modes that use the sticks, that you can solder these wires to the sticks. Now the last time I did that, I could have just had a faulty chip, but the last time I did that, it actually broke the chip and it didn't work, and I was definitely soldering them in the right places. And guides and tutorials just show mainly soldering the front part, not the back part, for the sticks. So, you know, I'm not going to go ahead and put these red wires, this red wire here, and there was one attached up here, to the back, because they solder to the sticks. And for one, I don't use any of the modes that are on the back, but two, the last time I did that it broke the chip, and I don't know why, but yeah, I'm not going to go ahead and do that again. If you want to do it, then I will probably put a picture up on screen of where you have to solder to get them on the back, so that you can use the modes that require the sticks. So for me, I'm just going to go ahead and desolder the wires that have the sticks, that go to the sticks, and then I have my mod chip installed. But that's it. So we're going to have to test this out now and make sure it's working. So one way of doing this before we seal it up, just to make sure, there's actually an LED right here attached to the chip. So next to controller LED 4, there is an actual LED on the chip which is red. So this red LED should light up when you press the sync button to activate the mod on the controller. So that's what we're going to check right now to make sure that that is working. So in order to do that, we need to grab our little piece here, plastic piece, and we'll tuck the battery connectors in at the back so that push down and just clip in there. So while it's in here, we can actually attach the battery pack to the controller. So to tell the chip is getting power, when you plug in the battery, you see the red light flashes, or well, kind of fades out, fades in and fades out, and that shows that the chip is working. Alright guys, you can see I have the controller on now. What you do is you just get this little bit here, place it over, hold down the middle button till it turns on. So what you do to activate a mod is hold down the right trigger, press the sync button, and you can see it flashes, and when I let go of the right trigger, you get the solid red light. What that means is it's now on mode 1, because I clicked it in once, so that takes it to mode 1, and then it's solid red, which means it's on that mode. If you want to change it to another mode, hold down right trigger, click it again, then you're in mode 2, and mode 3 and mode 4, etc. I actually found a really good guide. Obviously there's the information manual, so read this. There's so many different modes, and there's also a bunch of YouTube videos I found where somebody kind of goes over all the different modes, so I'll probably link those in the description as well if you want to check those out, if those videos still exist. But yes, it's definitely a beast controller mod. The sync button can be a bit awkward. You may need to resolder that, because if you hold down the right trigger and you press the sync button and nothing happens, there's no red flash, and when you let go of right trigger the red light's not solid red, then it means that there's a loose connection in that point, and it's a very small point, but you may have to resolder that a few times. I have had problems with that in the past, but as you can see it's working. So say I want to turn it off, I believe I just press the sync button in once, and then that turns it off completely, so now I'm playing like a normal controller. And then if I want to turn it back on, I just click it again, and there, we're back into mode 1. So what is mode 1? Ultra fire, I think. Let's say I want rapid fire, hold down right trigger, click. I'm now in mode 2, rapid fire mode. Turn it off just by clicking, the mode's off, click it to turn it on, and the mode's on. So pretty beast rapid fire chip, highly recommend it. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, comment if you have any questions, and yeah, I hope to see you guys in my next video.